get out of here, including myself. Oh, there it is.
Breaking tonight, a Southern California firestorm. People taking to social media like the Citizen app as the wildfire destroys homes, all driven by a dangerous windstorm. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to West Coast Wrap. I'm Alex Savage. That fire is burning out of control tonight in the Pacific Palisades area of Los Angeles, forcing tens of thousands of people to evacuate their homes. Let's give you a live look tonight at Pacific Palisades, where firefighters are working to try to slow the spread of these flames. This fire started around 11 o'clock this morning as strong Santa Ana winds returned to the region. The fire has grown tonight to more than 2,900 acres. The state of California and the city of Los Angeles have declared states of emergency to try to streamline the response to this fire. Now, Pacific Palisades is on the northwest end of LA County, just a few miles north of Santa Monica and Venice Beach. People in this area were the first to spot smoke rising from nearby hillsides, and within just hours, flames were overtaking neighborhoods. Emergency managers have not said exactly how many homes have been lost in the fire, but video from the fire lines shows devastation in some areas. Governor Gavin Newsom joined with Los Angeles city leaders and first responders late this afternoon, warning people across Southern California that strong winds will continue to be a threat all throughout this week.
This is a dynamic situation. This is a fast-moving and growing fire at over 1,200 acres at this point. And with the predicted wind patterns and continued weather event, we expect the situation to continue through the evening.
We're not out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination. You may feel at home that you're fine down in Riverside County, San Bernardino County, down in Ventura County, other parts of the state, but there's a reason we pre-positioned hundreds of assets and personnel on Sunday in anticipation of this wind event. 110 engines specifically were sent down, 45 by CAL FIRE, 65 through our mutual aid system through the Office of Emergency Services. Water tenders down here, 7 new helicopters we brought from Northern California down to Southern California. We just brought our C-130 down from Northern California and already just had its first drop.
All right, joining us live tonight to talk more about the challenges that firefighters are facing in Southern California is CAL FIRE Battalion Chief Brent Pasqua. Battalion Chief Pasqua, we appreciate the time tonight. Thank you so much. I know you're busy. Obviously, we hear the update tonight, and obviously it is a dire situation. This fire in Pacific Palisades burning out of control. Talk about what the priorities are tonight for the fire crews on the ground as they try to save lives and protect people's homes.
That's right. Our number one priority is life. We want to get everyone out of the way. We want to make sure everyone is safe. And then we also want to make sure we're protecting those homes so they have a home to come home to. This wind is making it a very difficult firefight.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing some of these images, and really what stands out is the embers that we're just seeing blowing through these neighborhoods. And that's obviously leading to spot fires way out in front of the main fire itself. Can you talk a little bit about how difficult it is to fight a fire when you have winds that are this strong?
Yeah, that's what makes it so difficult is these embers are cast all over, and they're so unpredictable. We have to have crews on all sides of this fire, so they can be thrown many miles in front of the main fire. So when a fire spreads that quickly, we're just trying to get everyone out of the way. Our main priority is life safety, like you said.
All right. Well, obviously, we did see some water drops on the fire today from choppers and some of the fixed-wing aircraft as well. But did the fact that the winds were so strong, did that limit the air attack on this fire in the early stages at all?
You know, this afternoon we did get a little break in the wind. It slowed down. It didn't stop. It slowed down. So we were able to get our planes out here, put some retardant on this fire. We still have helicopters out here, even though the wind is really blowing right now and expected to get worse. So there is some aviation assets still fighting this fire.
And just to be clear, we have the ability, CAL FIRE does have the ability to get drops on this fire even in those overnight hours when the winds are really expected to pick up.
We do. We can utilize our nighttime flying helicopters that are here to get some water on this fire as well. We won't see any of the planes till tomorrow during the day, but we're doing everything we can to keep this fire from spreading.
All right. We just heard from the governor a moment ago. He gave the update and talked about all of the crews and engine companies and the aircraft that have been brought in from all over the state. Can you just sort of explain to everybody how CAL FIRE crews and assets come in from across the state and come in ahead of a windstorm like this one?
Yeah, in the event of a predicted wind event like this, we don't want to be reactive. We want to be proactive, So we had our crews come down a few days ago and get strategically placed throughout the Southland from San Luis Obispo down to San Diego, just in case something like this would happen. The crews would be closer and we'd have extra. We've learned in the past that these fires, they're not going to wait for crews to drive down or drive in from out of town. So they need to be there for when that fire does start.
Battalion Chief, let me ask you, the question moving forward here. We already appear to have a catastrophe on our hands in the Pacific Palisades area tonight. And with that being said, the winds are expected to pick up even more in these overnight hours. What worries you the most about that scenario and the destruction that could be caused here?
Right. What worries me the most is just the firefighters that are out there in the dark, maybe in places they haven't seen. If the winds are going to get worse than they are now, we're in for a really tough fight tonight. So we got to be careful. We want to get everyone out safely and we want to protect homes, but we also got to watch out for ourselves as well in these conditions.
And there's also, before we let you go, also the thought of what if another large fire breaks out in these kinds of conditions? Does that put a strain on resources?
Right. Well, we thought about that. We still have pre-positioned crews throughout the Southland here. So we did have a surge of crews come here, but we still have more in other parts like Riverside, San Bernardino, San Diego that are still there in case something should happen.
All right. Really appreciate the update. I know it's a very busy evening for you and your colleagues. That is CAL FIRE Battalion Chief Brent Pasqua joining us live tonight from Southern California with the latest on the firefight in Pacific Palisades. Thank you for the time. We appreciate it. And this severe windstorm has prompted utility companies to shut off power to tens of thousands of homes and businesses across Southern California tonight. Those planned outages are designed to help keep power lines and equipment from sparking fires in high-risk areas. Video posted to the Citizen app shows firefighters putting out a small fire in a tree around some power lines north of Los Angeles earlier today. Investigators have not confirmed whether the power lines actually sparked the fire. Tens of thousands of homes and businesses may experience temporary power shutoffs before the end of this week. All right, for more on the conditions in Southern California, let's bring in KTVU meteorologist Mark Tamayo, who is tracking these wind gusts, which, again, we are expecting these windy conditions to stick around for several more days, Mark.
Yeah, that's been the big development, Alex, over the past 24 hours with the winds and, of course, this major wildfire. And the constant in the backdrop is it's extremely dry. LAX has only picked up 0.03 inches of rainfall going back to October 1. So it is still kind of a pattern we'd expect in summer or fall. So this was the scene earlier today, and there's a satellite loop. And here is that smoke plume being pushed out to sea, a defined wind out of the northeast. In fact, you can see it once again pushing out into the Pacific. As we come in closer, one site showing you around the fire zone, showing you winds of gusting at 36 miles an hour out of the east, and a current temperature of 71%. Relative humidity is missing, but it's been close to around 20% all day. And unfortunately, the winds will pick up overnight, and those relative humidity values expected to decrease. A very windy day in Southern California. Take a look at some of these observations. The one site in the San Gabriel Mountains over 80 miles an hour. Van Nuys over 50 miles an hour. LAX 46 miles an hour. So the red flag fire warning continues into Thursday. Damaging winds. In fact, the winds, maybe the highest peaks, we could have winds approaching 100 miles an hour, and the dry air will continue to settle in. So with all this wind and also the dry conditions, combine that with the lack of rainfall, this is not the setup we want to see. And here's the wind forecast right on through tomorrow morning. 7 o'clock, it's still breezy to windy. This is 12 o'clock, and the winds might actually back off later in the day to help out the fire crews fighting this fire. Here's a satellite As you can see across the west coast, we're showing you some high clouds moving into Northern California. But of course, the big issue will be that windstorm down in Southern California. Current numbers, some 40s up in Portland and Seattle. San Francisco 61 and Phoenix is 64 degrees. As we show you the satellite and the radar once again, it'd be nice to bring in some rain down towards Southern California, but that's not the case. Maybe a few showers, at least a chance closer to the Phoenix area for tomorrow. Here is the setup, though. It is a pattern we do not like to see this time of year. An area of high pressure out here. This area of low pressure, which developed and actually moved in from the north, right now centered closer to Los Angeles, and that pressure difference is setting up the wind event for tonight into tomorrow. So we have the wind warnings posted for the Los Angeles area, partly sunny in Phoenix, sunshine out toward Denver, and then more sunshine out toward the San Francisco Bay Area. They have a wind advisory for San Francisco that will expire 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. So here is the game plan. As you can see here, no major storms to talk about here, at least over the next 3 days. Some clouds in the Seattle area, lots of sunshine in Phoenix. But of course, in Southern California, mostly sunny skies. But the big factor will be those strong winds and that red flag warning in place right on through Thursday. Alex.
All right, Mark, thank you. President Biden was forced to cancel a trip to California's Coachella Valley today because of those dangerous winds. He arrived in Los Angeles last night to prepare for an announcement about protecting public lands south of Joshua Tree National Park, as well as a tribal site up near the California-Oregon border. The White House says the formal announcement will be made next week from Washington, D.C. Tonight, we're also monitoring how this windstorm is affecting Nevada and Arizona. Here's a live look tonight at the Las Vegas Valley, where a high wind warning is in effect. That same warning is also in effect for some parts of southwest Arizona. Blowing dust is one of the biggest concerns in those desert communities. People there are also being warned that they are likely to experience wind gusts of up to 65 miles per hour with this system. All right, to stay on top of the wildfire threat from this windstorm, you can head to our website. That's westcoastwrap.com. Our online coverage includes details on the evacuations underway tonight in Southern California and links to video showing drivers abandoning their cars as they tried desperately to escape the flames earlier today. All right, Oregon homeowners who live in high-risk wildfire areas must meet new building codes and reduce vegetation under some new hazard maps that were released today. The new building and defensible space codes will affect more than 100,000 properties. The measure follows a record-breaking wildfire season last year, costing the state more than $350 million. The zones will not affect residents' insurance rates under Oregon law. Coming up tonight here on West Coast Wrap, some new details emerging tonight about that explosion of a Cybertruck in Las Vegas. Tonight, why investigators suspect AI played a role in that blast. Plus, outrage after a car crashes into a market in Oregon. Some people call it a targeted attack driven by racial bias.
The Sikh community is absolutely welcome here, as anybody should be. And for such a kind of heinous thing to happen, yeah, it's pretty appalling.
A Bay Area couple at the center of a notorious kidnapping case spoke publicly today after their attacker was charged with several other similar crimes. Back in 2015, Denise Huskins was kidnapped in Vallejo by an intruder who then raped her in a South Lake Tahoe cabin. Initially, Vallejo police said Huskins and her now husband, Aaron Quinn, fabricated that story. Now, though, their attacker, Matthew Muller, is being charged with several other crimes, including a triple kidnapping that happened just weeks before Huskins' attack.
It's something that he's crafted and perfected over a long period of time. He had all the markers of a serial predator.
Investigators say evidence shows Muller has been breaking into homes since he was just 16 years old. He's now serving 40 years in a federal prison in Arizona for Huskins' kidnapping. He will appear in court for those new charges at a later date. Investigators say the soldier who blew up a Tesla Cybertruck outside the Las Vegas Trump Hotel used generative AI to plan that attack. On New Year's Day, investigators say Matthew Livelsberger from Colorado Springs took his own life shortly before explosives in that Cybertruck detonated. An investigation of his search history before the attack shows Livelsberger used ChatGPT to search for explosive targets and how fast certain ammunition travels. Investigators say Livelsberger also believed he was being followed at the time of the attack.
The suspect believed he was being followed all the way from Colorado. And I want to make it clear that our suspect in this case has never had a criminal history, nor was he on the radar of the FBI or the LVMPD prior to this bombing.
Lavelsberger was an Army Green Beret who deployed to Afghanistan twice. Investigators say he left notes in his cell phone saying he needed to, quote, cleanse his mind of the brothers I've lost and relieve myself of the burden of the lives I took. Some people in a community south of Portland want to see the man who crashed a truck into a market charged with a bias crime. Fox 12's Spencer Schatt reports tonight that there is an outpouring of support now for the store's owner.
Yeah, the man was arrested on DUI charges, so alcohol is a suspected factor in this crash. Neighbors tell me they heard the man yelling racial slurs as he was being arrested, which prompted community members to start hanging these signs of love and support on the boards covering the gaping hole left on the side of this building. This truck crashed into the Center Market on Maple Street and Fairview Avenue, startling this Dallas neighborhood Saturday night.
Well, I was wondering what the boom was, and now I know.
But the boom probably would have been...
I think that was his initial entry into the store.
The crash happened around 9:30 p.m. Police say the driver was John Marlis. According to police and witnesses, Marlis got out of his car and grabbed multiple things from the coolers and yelled racial slurs at the man working before trying to drive away. But police were already there, blocking him in the store. Marlis was arrested Saturday night and faces charges of reckless driving, endangerment, robbery, and theft. But some community members say they also want him to be charged with a bias crime.
People don't want this classified as a hate crime for some weird reason, but if the guy got out of his car after destroying a sick business and started shouting hateful things, I'd probably classify that as a hate crime.
A spokesperson for the city says they are still investigating the crash, and while they acknowledge racial slurs were said during the incident, that doesn't automatically make this a bias crime.
Heartbreak for this owner of the business. The Sikh community is absolutely welcome here, as anybody should be, and for such a kind of heinous thing to happen, yeah, it's pretty appalling.
Marlis was supposed to go in front of a judge Monday afternoon, but
we are unable to bring him up right now. He is very uncooperative.
His hearing was rescheduled for Tuesday, and the judge filed for an extraction order if he continues to be uncooperative. While we didn't hear from Marlis Monday, his brother wanted to explain why he might have done what he is accused of.
We have been trying to get him to surrender himself to the mental health services because he had previously gone there in Oregon, was mandated to take medications, and when his parole ended, he no longer needed to take those medications, and he began abusing marijuana and alcohol and tobacco, and his mental health problems came back.
Now, I've also reached out to the owners of this store asking for comment on the crash. While they haven't gotten back to me, one family member posted on Facebook saying, in part, "We are overwhelmed with emotion as we witness the outpouring of love and support and kindness from all of you. We are humbled by your generosity and solidarity that you've shown us, that we are not alone, and together we can overcome these darkest moments." Reporting in Dallas, Spencer Schatt, Fox 12 Oregon.
A Seattle police officer who struck and killed a pedestrian with his patrol car while speeding has now been fired from the department. Authorities say Kevin Dave hit Janavi Kandula while responding to an overdose call nearly 2 years ago. This case prompted outrage after one of Dave's fellow officers was heard on body camera video making callous comments about the 23-year-old college student who died in that crash. A review by the department found Dave violated department policies, but county prosecutors declined to charge him criminally. However, the former officer was eventually fined $5,000 by the city for negligent driving. Investigators tonight are working to figure out whether two men found dead in the wheel well of a JetBlue airplane have ties to Salt Lake City. Their bodies were discovered late last night after that plane landed in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The plane was coming from New York, but had been in Jamaica and Salt Lake City earlier in the day. Broward County aviation workers say everything appeared normal until those bodies were discovered during a post-flight maintenance inspection.
The passengers who arrived on the flight had already deplaned when the discovery was made. So again, there were no impacts to airport operations last night.
The men who died have not been identified by authorities. The Transportation Security Administration, JetBlue, and the FAA are now working together to figure out how they got inside the plane's wheel well. Coming up tonight on West Coast Wrap, new rules in place at Meta. Tonight we'll explain how they could affect what you see in your social media feed. Also, we'll show you how people across the country are trying to pay their respects to former President Jimmy Carter. The Washington State Board of Natural Resources has approved a ban on open water salmon farms in state-owned aquatic lands. Conservationists say this is a critical step in helping to restore struggling salmon populations. They say net pens spread disease and cause algae blooms, threatening wild fish and the endangered orca populations. They pushed for the ban following the release of 250,000 non-native Atlantic salmon into Puget Sound. Commercial fishermen say there's little scientific evidence to back the claims that removing farmed salmon will save wild salmon populations or benefit killer whales that feed on those fish. Silicon Valley tech giant Meta announced today it will be ending its fact-checking program. The system had been established to curb misinformation on their social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram, but now the company says users are allowed to police each other. As KTVU's Ann Rubin reports, this decision has already sparked some back and forth.
Say goodbye to professional fact-checkers at Facebook and Instagram. Parent company Meta calls them a hindrance to free speech.
We've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship.
They'll move to a community notes model, much like the X platform, where posters police each other. They'll also relax their content filters, focusing on illegal or severe infractions.
The reality is that this is a trade-off. It means we're going to catch less bad stuff, but we'll also reduce the number of innocent people's posts and accounts that we accidentally take down.
Why now? CEO Mark Zuckerberg says the recent election felt like a cultural tipping point, and that is a big concern at San Francisco-based Common Sense Media. They believe this is all about currying favor with Donald Trump.
This is a naked political decision where people are prioritizing profit over the best interests of society and over the best interests of kids and families, period.
Their fear that misinformation or hate speech might go unchecked, or that the burden of protecting families will shift back to the families themselves. But experts like Larry Magid with Connect Safely say that's really not new.
The burden is going to be on the user, and I think that's the way it used to be. It's the way it's kind of always been, even with the fact checkers, and I think at the end of the day, this isn't going to make a huge difference.
Meta's new global policy chief spoke to Fox about the change, calling it a return to their roots.
This is an opportunity for us to get back to the values that Mark founded the company on.
But the jury is still out on what this change will mean for users.
I don't think it's too good because there's so much that's out there.
Just feel like it's dangerous to hear about things just going out as it could spiral.
But while some have concerns about the demise of fact checkers, others say it's about time.
I'm glad they're finally doing it. I just think it was too filtered, so it's nice that they've taken the constraints off.
Meta also plans to bring back more political discourse and to move their content review teams to Texas. The changes will be phased in over the next couple of months. In Menlo Park, Ann Rubin, KTVU Fox 2 News.
And finally tonight, people are paying their respects to former President Jimmy Carter at the U.S. Capitol. The 39th president is lying in state at the Capitol's rotunda. Here is a live picture tonight where mourners are being given a chance to pass his flag-draped casket. He will lie in state here for the next day. And we, again, are following this developing story tonight of that procession through Washington, D.C., moved former President Carter's casket to the Capitol this afternoon, a ceremony attended by Vice President